magigera sila, pero maya-maya sumurrender ng mga Espanyol. So that the Americans took over. But the church was spared. So, keeping his promise, the guardian put the statue in place of the Divina Pastora, and the church was dedicated in 1898 as Our Lady under the Blessed Mother of Our Lady of Lourdes. Ganun nangyari. Umpisa. Now, the Capuchins continued to attend to the physical and spiritual needs of their brothers and sisters, especially the brothers working in the islands of Carolinas and Palawan. This determined the character of the residents in Manila. 1. A procura house, something like a storage for supplies that is gathered expressly for the sending out to other islands at the same time. And then also a residence for the brothers coming and going to the islands in the Pacific. St. Paul's saying, Caritas Christi urget nos, when taken to heart, makes people overflow with desire to do something for building the kingdom. We continue. The Capuchins continued also their work of pastoral, such as responding to the calls of the sick in around their house in Manila, teaching Christian doctrine through catechetical sessions to children, and all this began and anywhere they went, they established groups of devotees, and all this began to demand more work and zeal from among the brothers and increased rapidly among the inhabitants. So they had to request more personnel from the mother province of Navarre. And Providence sent them also reinforcement. On June 27, Feast of Our Lady of Perpetual Help in 1901, another group of Capuchins arrived in Manila, but this time the group had a different character in that these new arrivals were the first band of Capuchins expressly destined to work in the Philippines. Okay? So that we can say that Capuchins in the Philippines really started 1901. These brothers were missionaries trained in the newly established Missionary College of Lecaros under the direction and guidance of the famous Father Dambana. Now, the names of the 9 friars composing the group are names that are familiar to us, at least some of them, na nakilala ko ba no ko ay pumasok sa seminaryo, sapagkat sila ang aming mga confessors at ang aming mga taguibigay ng retreat. Okay? Babasahin ko ng mga pangalan. Ha? And some of you may remember them. Kasi they also resided somewhere in Teresita or in Ermita, until 1945 nung nasira yung bahay sa Intramuros. Unang-una, Father Blas de Guernica. Okay? Then, Basilio de Guernica from Vizcaya. Father Roman de Vera from Navarra. Juan Maria Dansuain. Ito ang sinasabi ko na bibigyan retreat sa amin. Okay? Father Blas, yung aming confessor. At nakakatuwa dahil pag siya salita, halo-halo kanyang lengguwahe. Tagalog, Espanyol, English, lahat na. No? Pero naintindihan namin kasi banal na tao, hindi ka pwedeng tumama. Okay. Basta 9 of them. Okay? Ngayon, from this time onwards, until the Japanese invasion and occupation, the subsequent expansion of the Capuchins were immediately assigned to the Diocese of Manila, then later to the Diocese of Bulacan, Cavite, Laguna, were set up as independent dioceses, as well as other dioceses of the province of the nation, destined for the pastoral care of the abandoned parishes that missionary had abandoned. Kasi nag-uwian lahat ng mga ibang mga missionaries. So, Capuchins na lang ang naiwan. Now, so ang kanilang trabaho was either conversion or reconversion. Ganyan. Okay? This move was because of the lack of pastors, especially in parishes abandoned by the missionaries, as I said. Now, as the chronicle of the time record, first they served in Tondo and Gagalangin from 1886 to 1905. After the revolution, they served in the Ermita district of Manila from 1903 hanggang 1957. Noteworthy here is establishment of the first parochial school in Diocese of Manila in 1907. Then, the Singalong district since 1905. Then further south to San Juan de Bolboc in Batangas. In Tabaco, Albay, 1905. Pililla, Rizal. Same thing, same year of 1905. Tanay, Rizal. Also, Indin Sariaya in Tayabas, now known as Quezon Province, also in 1905. And finally, in Bigaam, Bulacan, and in Santa Mesa in 1911. Bishops all over the country that were virtue at the time called upon the Capuchins mainly as preachers. Father Alfonso de Murantin, Ricardo de Torres, and especially Roman de Vera became famous in conducting rural missions, mostly in the Tagalog-speaking provinces, as well as in Pampanga and Pangasinan. Such was the fame of the Capuchin in conducting retreats and popular missions that Bishop of Manila at that time, the American Monsignor Jeremiah Harty, pleaded with the Spirit to allow some preachers to accompany him always in all his pastoral visits to the parishes. Now, you may ask, ano itong popular missions nito? Dati-dati kasi, yung mga misyonero, pupunta sa isang lugar, isang bayan halimbawa, They will stay there for 1 week and then preach and teach the gospel and Christian doctrine. Okay? To make the baptized Catholics there more fervent in their Catholicity. But it has been the experience of many of us that when we begin to transfer residence or to renovate an old one, that the first spaces would be qualified and described as chaotic and topsy-turvy or helter-skelter. Thus, to the beginning of now, what is now the Cavite province of the Philippines. Because after the suppression of the religious orders in Europe ended in 1886, remember that the religious orders were suppressed in Europe right after the French Revolution. So that many martyrs, many Capuchins were martyred in France and Spain also. Now, anong ginawa ng mga, sabihin natin, anti-church? Unang-una, bawal mag-preach. Pinasira ang mga simbahan. Hindi man kasi may COVID noon, pero sarado ang simbahan. Okay? Pero ng masamang intensyon. Tapos, bawal tumanggap ng mga bagong kandidato. Ganon sila kahigpit. At saka, ang mga religious ay binigyan ng pensyon, mag-uwi na kayo. Parang ganyan. Pinauwi sila lahat. Wala nang kumbento. Sabagat ang mga kumbento, ni-confiscate nila. Hanggang ngayon, ang mga bahay, halimbawa sa Italia o sa Francia, ay pag-aari ng gobyerno. Kung mayroon mga religious nandun, sabagat sila ay parang mag-alaga ng bahay para huwag masira. Pero, kaya ang ibang mga bahay doon, luma na, antique, pero dinadayo ng mga turista. Kaya ganun ang silang pinag-alaga sabagat masinop, talagang malaga. Kaya maganda yung kanilang lugar na inasikaso. Ngayon, noong 1886, natapos na yung suppression. So that, simula naman natawag na restoration of the Capuchin life began with establishment of the District Nullius. Ibig sabihin, District Nullius, walang may-ari. Lugar na walang may-ari. Ibig sabihin, yung dating mga probinsya, independent provinces, ay ngayon, isa na lang. Pero walang hepe doon. It is totally under the Pope. Ngayon, yung District Nullius na mga Capuchins din, ay natayo noong December 18, 1898. But was dissolved in 1907 when the establishment of the various juridical jurisdictions which traditionally were provinces were canonically re-established and re-effected. Because of this, many missionaries were recalled and returned to their original geographical provenance. Okay? Like, yung mga Navarro, bumalik sa Navarra, yung mga Catalan, bumalik sa Catalonia, Barcelona, yung mga Valenciano, bumalik sa Valencia, yung mga Castilla, bumalik sa Castilla, yung gano'n. So that, nagka-hiwa-hiwalay na sila. So, unang-una, the Philippines came under the jurisdiction of Catalonia beginning in 1907. Pagka-dissolve ng District Nullius, binigay ang Pilipinas sa mga Catalan. Therefore, I still remember, bata pa ko, some Filipinos still spoke Catalan, not Spanish. Sapagkat ang nauna ang nagturo sa kanila, mga Catalanes, taga Catalunya. Now, for the next 7 years, the Catalans tried but finally found it impossible to send enough missionaries to the Philippines. So in this connection, in March 1914, the mission of the Far East was entrusted to the newly established province of Navarra, Cantabria, Aragon, which until today, which immediately sent a huge number of friars to work in the Philippines. In the meantime, the Seminary College of Lecaros was transferred to Extremus in Pamplona beside the meandering blue-green waters of the Rio Arga. Now, during all these years, kung saan man pumunta mga kapusin na sa Navarra, they also established devotion to Our Lady of Lourdes. Kaya, ang ngayon, mapansin ninyo, lahat halos ng mga activities ng unang kapusin na minana namin, Lourdes School, Mandaluyong, Lourdes School, Quezon City, Lourdes Seminary, lahat na Lourdes. I still remember, nung ako ay in charge ng seminary sa Lipa, nakata mga sulat ng mga babae. Akala na Lourdes School, Lourdes Seminary, babae. Kasi nga, Lourdes ang pangalan. So I had to explain to them that it was the name of the patroness, Our Lady of Lourdes. Now, ang trabaho ng mga kapusin, always under the protection of Our Lady of Lourdes. Paris Apostolate, Synod Retreat, holding popular missions in rural areas, teaching the Christian doctrine to children and adults. And then another activity was preaching the the teaching of the Aglapayan schismatics, and also the Iglesia ni Felix Manalo, kinakalaban ng mga unang kapusino. So that meron silang natawag na magazine. Ang papangat ay El Antipoda. So the opposite, kumbaga literal translation sa English, the opposite, panguntra sa mga tinuturo ng mga INC. And then also they published what's called a studio, another magazine to explain the authentic Catholic faith. An important decision for the future of the Capuchin was taken in favor of the expansion to north of Manila, taken in 1929. On the strength of the decision, they undertook the parishes of San Miguel in Tarlac, and I think some friars said that Coria Aquino was baptized by Capuchin when Capuchins were there nung ipanak si Cory. Sabagat malapit ang kanilang chapel dun sa tinatayuan ng ngayon, Hacienda Luisita. And then tinanggap nila ang sa Pangasinan like Aguilar, Bugalion, Labrador, Sarasa, Ansual. So kumino sa yung mga taga Pangasinan, nandito, alam nyo na baka once upon a time you were under the Capuchins or you were evangelized by the Capuchins. They did a tremendous missionary work in these areas, learning the language, and continuing to serve the people heroically, especially during the Japanese occupation of World War II. The Capuchins served this sector of Pangasinan for 30 years until they gave it back as an organized church to the Diocese in 1916. Now, the forging enterprise of the Capuchins in favor of the people of God was again subjected to severe baptism of fire at the onset of World War II, concretized in the invasion of the Japanese Imperial Army and their Korean missionaries, mercenaries. But, fortunately, in 1937, it was declared a custody. Another step up, kumbaga. Being a missionary to custody, we sabihin, they're already becoming independent. And 9 brothers were killed by the authority of the Japanese overlords. 6 were killed in Intramuros and 3 in Singalong. Now, also, during the bombardment of the American Air Force, during the so-called liberation of Manila, the church dedicated to our Blessed Mother under the title of Our Lady of Lourdes, together with the Mother House, along with the archives and library in Intramuros, were completely destroyed and precluded any attempt at rebuilding. And the parish of Ermita suffered the same fate. Malaking kapinsalaan doon. Hanggang ngayon, hindi pa naayos. Fortunately, itong maganda. The statue of Our Lady of Lourdes, as appeared to Saint Bernadette at the little grotto of Lourdes, remained unscarred. Kumbaga, walang nangyaring kahit nagkagalos-galos man lang. So, nagsimula din ang kanyang, kumbaga, sa Mediterranean, pilgrimage. Because, pagkatapos ng gera, dinala siya sa San Agustin. Magkatabi lang yun. Practically. If you go to Intramuros, you will see the Church of San Agustin. And medyo sa baba pa ng General Luna Street, ang dating ruins ng dating Capuchin Church. Pero ngayon, restaurant na, ginawang restaurant na nakabili. And then, doon siya nilagak for the time being para maging safe until it was time for her to be put in a proper place. So, now, nung peaceful time na, she was brought to the chapel of Ermita. That was administered by the Capuchins until the parish was returned to the Diocese of Manila under Cardinal Santos. You remember him, okay? Now, from there, it was brought to the parish church of Santa Teresita del Niño Jesus. Diyan sa Quezon City. Mayon. While a larger shrine was being built nearby, the road leading up to the cave used as a retreat by San Pedro Bautista across the creek. Yan. Kaya ang kalsadang ito ay tinatawag na retiro. Kasi ito muna, diyan dumadaan si Padre Bautista para pumunta doon sa San Francisco del Monte. Kasi doon, hanggang ngayon, nandun pa kanyang cave where he used to meditate and pray. So if you want to go one day, bisitahin ninyo. Hanggang matapos itong building ginagawa in 1951. Then, in 1951, nilip din na dito yung estatwa. Yun na yun. Itong hindi sa taas, bago yan. Iba nang gumawa niyan. Pero yun ang original, yun nandun sa Bisapias. Pero, another footnote, itong estatwang pa na ito, meron pa ng twin, sabi natin. Kasi yung ginawa ng sculptor na Manuel Flores, dalawa. No? Binigay niya yung isa sa mga Capuchin, pero yung isa, tinago niya sa bahay niya. Okay? Ngayon, pagdating ng mga Hapones, tumakas sa Davao, doon sa Catalunya Grande. Kaya, maswerte kasi, kung saan ang Birhen, doon nila punta ang mga Capuchino. Sa Catalunya Grande sa Davao, andun na aming kumbento. Okay? At, nung makita namin yung statwa, pinunta namin yung pamilya, sabi namin, pagkitingin nga ng inyong statwa. Now, yung family, takot ng takot, dahil akala na babawi namin. Sabi ko naman, hindi ho, titinan ko lang kung yun nga ang yung twin ng statwa namin. Ngayon, pumayag naman sila. Nung sinilip ko yung ilalim ng statwa, kumbaga pedestal, no? Andun, ang date, 1898. So, pareho, exactly, authentic. Ngayon, bakit nandun sa kasi yung mga may hawak ng statwa ngayon, kamang-anak pala nung sculptor. No? So, yun ang sabi natin history ng statue of Our Lady of Lourdes. Pero, ano ang mga lesson na matutunan natin sa aking sharing? Number one, ang message ni Maria is the same wherever she appears in this earth. Unang-una, prayer, kasi, yun, pagkipag-ugnayan sa Diyos, prayer. At, hawak-hawak ni Maria, nung she appeared to Birhen, rosaryo. So, pray the rosary every day. Because then you are on the team. We are fighting against spiritual enemies. Sabi sa San Pablo, hindi makalamatin mga people with flesh and blood, but spiritual enemies. Okay? Una yun. Pangalawa, penance, conversion, yun ang una. Pangalawa, by frequenting confession, to accept na we are all sinners. And then the third one, of course, is tawag na to, calling on Mary to help us dahil siyang ina ng Diyos, katulad ng nangyari sa wedding feast ng Cana when she was the one who saw the need of the people. Katulad ngayon, kailangan niya, tulungan tayo para lumakas ang ating, hindi lang ating buhay na makatao, kundi ang ating buwang spiritual. Okay? Yun ang pangalawang lesson. Pangatlo, yung mga oymay, Oblates of Mary Immaculate, dyan sa Grace Park, meron silang motto, at ating maganda para sa atin, yung to Jesus through Mary. Na tayo ay darating kay Jesus sa pamamagitan ni Maria. Because she will always lead us. Remember that Mary was with the apostles when the Pentecost, the Holy Spirit came among them. She was there praying with them, waiting for the coming of the Spirit, because yun ang pangako ni Kristo. Therefore, ngayon, So si Maria, ang ating mini is Calvary Church, Mother of the Church. And then also our Mother. Okay? So with that, 3 lessons, we have enough to think about and be strengthened in our spiritual life. Thank you very much.
We would like to thank Most Reverend Joseph Nacua of OFMCap DD for his inspiring talk. May we now call our Shrine Rector and Parish Priest, Reverend Father Jeff Agustin, OFMCap, and Brother Chichos Luciano, Lay Coordinator of the Pastoral Council, to award the plaque of appreciation to Bishop Nacua. The National Shrine of Our Lady of Lourdes awards this plaque of appreciation to Most Reverend Joseph Nacua, OFMCap DD, for sharing his invaluable knowledge on the history of Lourdes Church and its vision and mission in evangelization and service for the past 70 years. Given this 30th day of July, 2021, signed Reverend Father Jefferson Agustin, OFMCap, signed Jose Luciano, Lay Coordinator, Parish Pastoral Council. Salamat po ng marami, mahal naming Bishop ng Ilagan, Isabela. maraming salamat po. Galing siya ng Lipa at ngayong gabi ay babalik siya ng Lipa. Kaya mahalaga sa kanya ang National Shrine of Our Lady of Lourdes at puso naming pinasasalamatan si Bishop sapagkat babalik pa siya ng Lipa ngayong gabi. Kaya sa masigagong palakpakan mula sa ating lahat. Pagdasal natin na safe trip ni Bishop sa pagbabalik niya sa Lipa. Muli, palakpakan natin si Bishop Joseph Nacua. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Salamat marami po. Salamat po. At this point, we shall have our unveiling of the Platinum Jubilee logo and theme. This will be officiated by our Shrine Rector and Parish Priest, Reverend Father Jeff Agustin, together with our guardian, Reverend Father Ting Raimundo, and Brother Chichos Luciano. They will lead the unveiling rites. Ladies and gentlemen, sisters and brothers, thankful for 70 years of journey in our pastoral care and service, we at the National Shrine of Our Lady of Lourdes hereby present to you the Platinum Jubilee logo and theme. Present with us tonight is Reverend Father Ting Raimundo, Reverend Father Jeff Agustin, and Brother Chichos Luciano. Our Jubilee theme, 7 dekada ng parokya, sisidlan ng pananampalataya at biyaya. Our logo has a picture of the church whose 70th founding we are celebrating. Our Lady of Lourdes, our patroness, forms part of the number 70. Her circular crown completing the symbolic 70. Our Jubilee theme, 7 dekada ng parokya, sisidlan ng pananampalataya at biyaya, is written on a banner in the tune with the 500 years of Christianity in the Philippines, a very special celebration for the entire country. The color of the number 7 and the stars depict the color of the platinum silvery gray. Our Lady's image propped above the church, symbolizing her maternal and ever-present guidance over us. Once again, our Jubilee theme and Jubilee logo. A big hand. Father Ting for being with us, Father Jeff, Brother Chichos. Maraming salamat. Congratulations, National Shrine of Our Lady of Lourdes. Mama Mary, we love you. Thank you for being with us for 70 years and more. Maraming salamat. At this point, we shall have our General Assembly. We may now all be seated. We shall call our indefatigable Rector and Parish Priest, Reverend Father Jeff Agustin, for the plenary assembly with the Lingkos. Thank you.